Alright, so this has been requested for a while, and other stuff just kept getting in the way. Yes, I see the irony in that, don't you worry. Straight to the point, the idea behind this run is that I must agree to do whatever I am told once I am told to do so. So, like, if I start a quest and while progressing it I bump into somebody else who then gives me a different task, that then becomes my primary objective, and so on and so forth. This will very much be about the journey rather than the destination, what sort of path will I be sent on to reach the ending, and exactly who that will end up with me siding with. People have suggested this run under many names. A common one was New Vegas as a Yes Man, but I figured that's a little too close to New Vegas as Yes Man, which could be a different video entirely with the right mods. I got the idea for the title from this comment on my Skyrim Gifts video by MWK. The only reason I am doing it in New Vegas over Skyrim is because I haven't played New Vegas in a bit, so rest assured, if people do enjoy this, I will try it again in Skyrim and perhaps other games as well. One final note, as a bonus and to make things more interesting, I am restricting myself from increasing the speech skill as well as using melee weapons. The former because that could trivialise a lot of quests, and the latter because I always tend to use melee when weapons are unrestricted, and thought it would help spice things up this time around. Now, with all that out of the way, let's begin. Doc asks me if I can tell him my name, I say sure, and then we get to assigning specials. Don't use firearms a lot in New Vegas, so hopefully the build isn't too bad. Figured high endurance to compensate for me taking bullets while lining up shots due to my terrible aim, as well as intelligence for more skill points, and finally luck for extra crit damage. Agility is for when I get lazy and decide to just rely on VATS. Tag skills are guns, medicine, and science, for damage, survivability, and then just a few skill checks specifically. In retrospect, I should have probably tagged lockpicking, as truthfully I have zero idea where I'm going to end up, and the ability to get through any door would probably be handy. Finally for traits, it's skilled and wild wasteland, as that's just what I tend to take if I have no other ideas. Off the couch, we drop the pre-order bonuses. I should really just uninstall those at this stage, before then conversing with Doc once more, who tells me I should go and see Sunny Smiles, so that right there is going to be our first task. Speaking with Smile, she hands us a rifle and we get to work recycling the old-fashioned way. Typically, here I would end things prematurely and be on my merry way, but not today. So it's off to the watering hole to do the tutorial to this game for once in my life. I've probably done it in another video somewhere, but over 50 New Vegas runs in, you tend to forget some of the smaller moments, I won't lie. I surprised myself by hitting most of the shots on the geckos, and as a result, even saved the nameless townsfolk. Although I think I may have grazed her with a few bullets, and that's neither here nor there. That said, when Sunny sends me to grab some ingredients for the cooking tutorial, I have just the worst luck trying to hit this single mantis, to the point where I even missed a 95% chance to hit in VATS. I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3 again lately, so we shall say I'm just channeling my inner Shadowheart and move on. After snagging the ingredients from the cemetery, we return, cook, talk to Sunny, and wrap up the tutorial. Once we're finished, she points us towards Trudy, so our business in Goodsprings is far from over. For once, I restrain myself and don't remove the head of the corn, but rather just ignore him and have a nice chat with Trudy. This of course pushes me towards Ringo and by proxy defending the town. Well, first Ringo asks to play Caravan, so I oblige. I may as well have just set fire to my money to save us some time. Once he's ready to get serious, he tells us to start with Sunny, to which point she tells us to get the help of Trudy, Chet, Pete, and Doc. I start with Trudy as I already have the sneak skill to persuade her. Passing this check gets us to level 2, and allows me to get some points in explosives, so that Easy Pete falls in line as well. Chet wants money, but like hell I am investing in that, so I swipe a book on bartering from the saloon and get the armor from him that way. Doc was a non-issue, after all I did tag medicine, so his supplies were as good as mine. With everyone on board, it's back to Ringo and time to defend the town. Easy Pete's dynamite thins out the crowd as well as the muscles keeping Cobb's legs attached, to the point where the rest of the stragglers can be easily dispatched with my trusty 9mm that I started with thanks to tagging guns. With the quest complete, I was briefly confused about what to do next, but thankfully Ringo rushed me, handed over a paltry sum for all the murder, but then he says to meet him up at the Crimson Caravan Company for the rest of our payment. Alright, guess that's where we're off to next then. Before heading out, I return to Chet, where I trade him all the bloodstained clothes from the recently deceased, and in return, get myself yet another set of leather for repairs, and possibly best of all, a silencer for the varmint rifle. A stealth build could be fun, if for nothing else it'll give me all the time in the world to line up shots while out of sight. Onwards, and the plan is to, of course, head up through Hidden Valley and the Black Mountain shortcut, as it is my preferred method of sidestepping the Deathclaws. There's some coyotes and rat scorpions before reaching the valley, but nothing taxing, especially when I can jog backwards faster than they can rush me. As per usual, the bark scorpions are beyond the joke, yet for whatever reason, shower you with chunks of XP early on. So much so, we hit level 3. I dumped most of the points into science because depending on how I am ping-ponged around the Mojave, I may not have the money to pass the credit check into Vegas, therefore having a science skill of 80 to bypass the Securitrons may be needed. Assuming I don't want to shoot my way through, I suppose. Something that slipped my mind was that Neil approaches me when going this way, resulting in us grabbing the crazy quest. Guess it's time to swivel back to the valley and tackle this whole hullabaloo. The Varmint Rifle silencer combo proves its worth right away by allowing me to pick off some of the centaurs from a distance before they can all start spitting at me. Even once I'm spotted, they never manage to land a hit though. It's nice to find the one creature that has an aim worse than my own. I swipe the set of power armor as it will sell for a pretty cap somewhere before hiking up the back of the mountain to liquefy my way through the fence. The plan was to fight Tabitha initially, was even going to use the last of Pete's dynamite to do it. But after that last level up, my science was sitting high enough that I could just go with the happy ending and patch up Rhonda instead. There's enough XP from this to level up twice, to which I just split the points between science and guns yet again. I'm probably just going to max them out before focusing on anything else. Oh, and I took rapid reload as my perk if you care. Good thing too, as the key Tabitha gives you unlocks a bunch of chests around the place, some of which include revolvers. A wise man once said, 6 bullets is more than enough to kill anything that moves, but unlike that man, I'd rather not spend half the fight slowly reloading while getting domed by enemy gunfire. With that distraction out of the way, it was time to press on with my journey to the Crimson Caravan. That's something I should have mentioned before. Once I actually manage to finish a task or quest, I'll just go back to whatever my next most recent one was, which in this case is getting the rest of my reward. Only thing of note was a trader I bumped into on the way. I made the worthy trade of the power armor we snagged and in return got reinforced leather armor. If I plan to make use of stealth and light armor based perks, this very well could be my armor right up until the end. Well, Ringo, I made it, despite your directions. He then hands over the caps, and after a little conversing, he mentions Alice, so I pop into the nearby building to say hello, and just like that, I'm now a runner and have to deliver an invoice to Dr. Hildern over in Camp McCarran. It's like 2 minutes around the corner, so nothing exciting. That said, I do not hand over the package right away, as the good doctor piques my interest with the Vault 22 job offer instead. His assistant also gives us a secondary objective in rescuing the previous scientist he sent that way too, and thus the ping-ponging across the wastes commences. Fortunately, McCarran is my closest fast travel point to Vault 22, so I can start hoofing it from here. Encountered a couple of fiends that roughed me up more than they should have. I figured they'd be easy one-shots from stealth with a Sans Varmint rifle, but evidently not. I was able to get rid of the first one who began rushing me though at least. As for the other two, I just whipped out the 357 we got from Tabitha and proceeded to channel my inner Texas Red to secure the win. If you see a lot of blind firing, I apologise if that annoys you, but the only other FPS I really play is Halo, so zooming in with anything that's not a precision weapon doesn't always come naturally to me. Arriving at the vault, and it's time to start pruning what remains of the residents. The little vault of horrors lack the ability to run around on their routes, so picking them off from a safe distance, or from around corners, is simple enough. I take things very slow here, as I'm still a relatively low level after all. That said, the spore carriers can be dealt with in a similar manner thanks to sneak attack criticals. They won't all go down to one shot, especially the higher tiered ones, but a single crit seems to always knock them flat on their face, which then allows for quick follow-up shots to put them down before they get me. The rest of my time down here was much the same as a casual playthrough. Just fighting through everything in my path, grabbing the key cards, and making my way to Keely so that I can agree to both help her destroy the spores in the vents as well as collecting the data for the doctor. I even had the science skill to back up my reasoning. Wasn't aware that check existed, so again, neat. With the knowledge, I returned to McCarran, first letting Angela know Keely was safe for her reward, and then handing off the research to Hildern for his much more substantial offering of funds. That out of the way, I finally hand him over the invoice and reach level 7 for my efforts. Guns is now maxed, so roll on the science degree. Back to Alice, and it's not over yet as she piles on 3 more jobs she wants done. Naturally, we agree. This includes firing someone, stealing from the gunrunners without so much as being spotted, and negotiating with Cass to allow the Crimson Caravan to buy her out of business. Figured I'd hit up Cass first. I start from the Goodsprings watering hole and immediately turn my attention to assisting Barton Thorne with the geckos and his non-existent girlfriend. Geckos don't stand a chance most of the time, let alone when you come at them with a maxed out gun skill and a purpose. Barton's attempt at the double cross goes abysmally if you're curious. Back on track, by which I mean the road towards Primm. Hunt a few wild powder gangers for sport before being approached by a random trooper who points me towards Lieutenant Hayes, so we stop in to say hi. He tells us his woes about the lack of reinforcements and that something needs to be done about the protection of Primm. Of course, this leads to us helping with the problem by wiping out the small contingent of escapees currently occupying the town. In the process of doing so, we also free Beagle, which puts us on the path of finding a new sheriff for the town. That lines up with the reinforcements for Hayes quite nicely, so we may be able to eventually kill two birds with one stone. No one from here to the Mojave Outpost is interested in hiring me to solve their problems, rather they just attack on sight, so no distractions. Well, no long-term ones. I still take the time to kill the vipers and rat scorpions simply for being in my path. My directive is to speak with Knight, but due to lacking in the barter department, I cannot convince him. Speaking with him a little bit more has him mention Jackson and his inability to walk 5 minutes down the road and shoot some bugs, so we offer to aid Mr. Horseshoe and get to exterminating ourselves. The varmint rifle continues to carry us with and without stealth, although to be honest any ranged weapon gives you an unfair advantage on the ants given how remarkably slow they are. The quest log sends us back to Jackson, completing his quest, which then means Knight is our next most recent, which we can now convince thanks to all the little bug guts now staining the highway. With that, we can also then return to Hayes and help him with the reinforcements and install the new sheriff in Primm. Alright, back to Cass then, except I made a slight oopsie. That being, I wanted to see what Lacey had in stock, and in turn got the option to ask her about what work there was around the outpost. This led to her talking about Ranger Ghost, so looks like we're putting Cassidy on hold once more. All she needs is for us to scout out Nipton and why it looks like they didn't invite her to the town barbecue, judging by the smell and distant screaming. A few stealth kill exterminations to lighten the mood, and we meet up with Foxy Grandpa. He tells us to spread the message of what happened here, to which I give an overly enthusiastic can do, before fast travelling back to the outpost to do just that. After that, I can turn into Ghost, and now with nothing else in my way, see about finally getting Cass to sell her caravans. Slight problem, same as the one with Knight, I lack the skill to convince her to do so in any way. Fortunately, this quest has 3 objectives to it, so I just move on to one of the others. I figured firing Henry up in Freeside wouldn't be much of a hassle, already had it marked on the map thanks to being in that neck of the desert, so other than a couple of nameless chumps, nothing stood in my way to the Atomic Wrangler. As history likes to repeat itself, much like Cass, I have no way to convince him into this. On the bright side, the speech and barter checks this time are just for the optimal outcome. I can still strike a deal, and we use that term loosely, where he agrees to be let go if the Crimson Caravan pays off his debt to the Omertas, and gifts him a hefty severance package to boot. Alice isn't particularly thrilled by this outcome, but hey, I said I would get the job done, I never said I would do it well. Next was to sneak into the Gunrunners building. Another problem presents itself because, God forbid, we catch a break. That being, I cannot pick the lock. I told you I should have tagged lockpicking. Now, I could go off and grind XP until I level up enough to get the required skill points to pick my way through. But I had another idea. Parkour! Alright, I had another idea. The gate is rather thin, so by simply walking towards it, saving, then reloading said save, all the while holding forward, when I loaded back in, I would be slightly merged into the gate itself. By saving and reloading once more after this point and repeating the process, I would then pop through the fence. This is an exploit, yes, but it's that or grinding, and this was faster and more fun. It's also the only time I'm going to be doing something like this. There were no guards present inside the building, so I moseyed on over to the nearest terminal and downloaded the manufacturing specifications, and then proceeded to hightail it out before one of them started doing the rounds. Returning to Alice for the penultimate time, and she is at least pleased with me for once, and hands over 500 caps as payment. Feels a little low, seeing as I had to bend the laws of reality to obtain that, but sure. All that leaves is the third and final task from before. None of my skills have improved to help in convincing her. However, as the saying goes, there's more than one way to skin a Cass. As per usual, Alice is not best pleased with my methods, but the task has been failed successfully as it were, so on to yet another. This time I am to head to the old Sunset Sarsaparilla factory and disable a counterfeit bottle cap making machine. Simple enough, the place isn't all that well guarded, plus I marked it earlier on my way to Vault 22. No, the real side quest out here comes after a few more fiends get a little too big for their britches. I put them down all the same, but this leads to me down the path of headhunting their leaders. Cook was the first to go, shot the Brahmin and all, but he still seemed more interested in me, so it didn't amount to much. Rapid Reload comes in clutch here after he gets tired of his whole gimmick and just swaps out his fire weapons for a hunting rifle. It, combined with VATS, allows me to get in the last few shots before he can finish me off. I swipe the head and the rifle, then press on to Violet to put the latter to good use. She also drops one along with her own noggin, so I am 2 for 2 on both. Unfortunately, Driver Nephi has neither. Well, he did have a head at one point, but not once I was finished with him, so I shoved his smashed tomato-looking face into my back pocket before treading back to Camp McCarran to hand over all 3 to the Major for my rewards. Back on track, I decide to upgrade that hunting rifle we just got thanks to Blake, and then finally finish up my gallivanting for the Crimson Caravan. The Radio Ranger decided to drop in at this stage. Remember that, because he returns later for whatever reason. With that over with, my last task was technically the main quest, so it's back to following that how you typically would. I already saved the town of Primm, so I stop in to see Nash so that he can point me to the deputy. During our talk, I ask about Eddie, and thanks to having the necessary science and repair checks, can fix him up right as rain and get ourselves a new aggressive sentient backpack. That means I have technically started the Eddie My Love companion quest, so it's time to go about triggering his memory banks. Which conveniently means it's off to Novak to speak with old lady Gibson, as she can activate one of the trigger words to get him talking. Unfortunately, New Vegas crashes on the way. This annoys me to the degree that I end up getting briefly distracted by a better game before continuing with my Mojave misadventures. Not much on the way to Novak other than some Legion and merchants trying to kill each other, as well as the odd wildlife encounter. Speaking with old lady Gibson does progress Eddie's quest, although I couldn't remember exactly what phrase was needed, so in the process of exhausting her dialogue, she gets to talking about Helios One and even marking it on my map. You know what that means. I've been a good boy so far in the eyes of the NCR, so I am let in without any hassle and directed towards Fantastic. He mentions what I need to do to fix things, albeit badly, and instructs me that the energy is to be sent to McCarran and the NCR areas, so that's what I aim to do. I run around to activate all the terminals, have to put down a few dogs on the way, as for some reason these ones are always aggressive no matter what. At least it doesn't affect my standing with the Republic. In the interior section with all the robots, I use my science brain to disable the turrets, and then the hunting rifle to mop up the rest. It's a solid weapon for how early you can obtain it, although my high crit chance could also be doing some of the heavy lifting here, to be honest. Once I find the computer room, once more, science and repair help big time in fixing things up. I then head topside, wait till the sun comes out, and then activate the facility and send the power where I was told. I then relay my success to Fantastic and finish the quest. Back to helping Eddie, and as luck would have it, speaking with Ignacio in this very room can trigger one of the final parts of Eddie's past. After this, I wait around for a bit until the Brotherhood contacts me through the little guy and tells us to bring him to one of their patrol teams over at the Repcon building. Already marked that earlier on my trip to meet Ringo, so can be there in no time. Rather than take the tour or get violent, I instead opt to hack my way through. This was not the best idea, as it led to me breaking into the room with the matter modulator, and while I was preoccupied swiping it and all its ammo for some easy caps, the security system tripped and all of a sudden, I was back to fighting sentry bots once more. A little tougher than those at Helios, but the same tactics still work. Stay back, spam the hunting rifle, and let crits play the game for me. That is, stay back as in tactically, not the perk. Once they're out of the picture, we head up to find the troops are dead, which we knew already, before then receiving yet another message through our metallic friend, this time from the followers of the Apocalypse. They also want what's in his shiny little head, and since they are the most recent to ask, I oblige, and run into Freeside to hand over Eddie to the scientists. Quest isn't over, so I can either stand around and wait, or do whatever. I speak with Julie for some supplies, which leads me down the path of helping her find a steady supply of chems for the sick instead. That points me to the Garretts, specifically James, who then has me tracking down escorts around the city. At this point, it feels like a 100% run with extra steps. Old Ben is easy enough to convince, Beatrix is on the other hand a no-go for now, so all that leaves is our good old friend Fisto. He has his own way of sidetracking us from our tasks as well. Mod's muggers meet a late end, that combined with the XP for telling James about Ben and Fisto gets me enough to reach level 12, which allows me to increase my bartering just enough to also send Beatrix over to finish up the pimping plot. I then set up the deal with the followers and the Garretts, as well as speaking with Francine, which once more sets me down a path of talking to 3 people in town. Only this time I am extorting them for money. First is Lady Jane. Again, a smooth talker we ain't, so we agree to help her by collecting her caps that should still be on her dead Brahmin at Brockflower Cave. A couple of Richard Ramirez's between me and the cave, along with the ROUS's inside said cave, and it's nice to get some use out of the weapons I've been carrying around, given that I have just been doing a lot of walking and talking for the last 30 minutes or so. I also rectify a mistake from 2 years ago as I remember to pick up the Rat Slayer, as it's great for stealth builds and all around just a better varmint rifle. Before long I locate the Brahmin and get the caps for Jane. Oh my god, is that Lincoln? Oh! Next I must get the caps from Santiago, and this man right here is about to set a chain of events into motion that he could not even begin to possibly comprehend. So I speak to Santiago, he tells me to head over to Mick and tell him the code word extravaganza. So I go to Mick, this is all BS, Mick then tells me about their problems with the Omertas, I offer to help, so now I'm heading to Gomorrah. I bypass the Securitron with a science skill, and before I can enter the casino, I am stopped by Victor, who tells me to go see House, so I do. House then tells me to get the chip from Benny. Alright, so I'm off to the Tops then. Right as I leave the Lucky 38, an NCR messenger grabs my attention and explains that Ambassador Crocker needs me instead. So, it's off to the embassy now. Then, finally, Crocker explains that he needs the assistance of the Boomers, so after all that, Santiago has effectively got me conscripted by the military and now has me running through an active bombing raid. For what it's worth, I also agree to George's sadistic game, but due to how things pan out from this point, I never got my money back. At the gate, I am whisked away to Pearl and immediately set to work. These somewhat play out like normal, given how it is. Pete's first, followed by further questioning for more rep, as well as him mentioning Loyal specifically. Loyal wants the solar arrays fixed up. As I am just under the repair threshold, I do this the alternative way by scrapping up the parts back at Helios One. I then fix the panels, return to Loyal, level up, and after helping some of the injured members of the group, already reach idolized status, so it's back to Pearl for the Lady in the Lake. Of course, Loyal mentions Jack can fix me up a rebreather, but upon conversing with Blonde and Awkward, I am instead forced to play matchmaker. I thought I'd be able to bypass the speech check with Alice to get Janet her caps due to helping her out in the past, but that wasn't the case. Granted, I didn't do most of them well, so that could also be a contributing factor. Oh, and the Radio Ranger showed up again, you know, for fun. Anyway, I return, witness some of the worst voice acting in the game, and then managed to focus up enough to inform Jack how to build that rebreather so that I could set off to the bomber. In one of my, shall we say, dumber moments, I figured it would be fun to just run from Nellis straight south to Lake Mead, as opposed to fast travelling like a normal person. It was kind of a mistake. The path is littered with Deathclaws that like to rush you at the drop of a hat, plus they like making it a family event and bringing the kids along for the ride too. Fortunately, I can somewhat even the playing field by making use of the emergency radio. The ranger I called in made quite the entrance by killing 2 Deathclaws. Wish they could have been that useful in their dedicated run, but I digress. After that first group got the jump on us, I began slowly inching my way forward in stealth for those oh so reliable crits. It helped out a ton, plus that ranger continued to demonstrate her itchy trigger finger. That help didn't last as long as I'd hoped though, despite how strong she was. While I was dealing with a blind claw, I turned to find she'd been eviscerated. Sad, but that's alright. Should the thing work like it's supposed to, I could summon another in a day or two. There weren't any more big groups of Deathclaws, but that doesn't exactly mean it was smooth sailings. Cazadors do exist down here in this neck of the woods. To be honest, I'm not too afraid of them. Simply aim for the wings and they become helpless. Plus, due to a mix of remaining at range and hidden, I've gathered a good supply of stim packs. One of the benefits of not charging in head first for a change, I suppose. Anyway, a couple of bugs get clipped, I attach the ballasts, and as I have learned from my previous blunder, once the bomber is raised, I just fast travelled back to Nellis and finished up their side of things. My journal updates me to run back to Mr. Crocker, so I do just that, and now it's off to parley with the Kings. He sends me to Oris, I follow him, for once he does his job and actually shoots some folks. Then, right as we are parting ways, I am informed Eddie has returned to Primm, so I drop everything to go and retrieve our deadly disco ball. Back to the King, and to save a little time, the GI Blues quest is quite literally one person tells you to go talk to another person, so it appeals to my ping-pong-like nature. The only mild snag was when Julie told me to go look out for Emily, who should approach me outside the Lucky 38 to bug House's system. Went and checked, but she was nowhere to be found. Probably just stuck under the map or something. Like I said, GI Blues plays out like you'd expect, but before I use little Elvis's favour to help Crocker, I get swayed into helping with his dog's brain surgery. I've already got Violetta's brain after dealing with the Fiends, so I may as well. More Cazadors on the trip to Jacobstown. Fortunately, Rex here tends to take the brunt of their onslaught, allowing me to easily pick them off. At Jacobstown, I make a beeline for Henry and get the pooch fixed, in the brain that is, so now he is good as new. Henry mentioned he was busy, I inquire, and before you know it, we are not only about to do more spelunking, but we also get another companion in the form of Lily. Also had to pay off those mercs outside of town, but that was like a 10-second ordeal of back and forth. God, not investing in speech is so bad for my guy's financial situation. In the Night Stalker cave, and typically their invisibility would be a problem, but rapidly mashing the VATS button allows me to cheat the system and see where they are, plus Lily and Rex seem rather attuned to them anyway, so it doesn't make much of a difference. The close quarters environment is not particularly ideal for a mid to long range rifle, but we make do I suppose. Not like it's uncommon for me to run straight up to people and fire at point blank range anyway. Grabbing the chewed up stealth boy ends our adventures down here, but not before I am tempted by my favourite New Vegas weapon as it speaks to me like the Green Goblin mask. I managed to resist the urge, but only barely. I don't even take it to sell, as I don't think I'm strong enough to have it in my inventory and not immediately pivot into a melee build. Returning to Henry, and Lily leaves our service for him to perform his tests. Once the night can arrive, I just have the dock hand over the stealth boys, as I'm not too keen on a fight, plus he did ask. I use a science check on Henry, and with that, returned to the king, got the favour, then returned to Crocker, and reached level 16. You can tell I'm doing a lot of side crap, as typically I finish most of these runs around level 11 or 12. Perks are just going into anything that ups crit chance, by the way, so like finesse, better criticals, stuff like that. Crocker informs us our time working together has come to an end, and that I have been requested at Hoover Dam, so off we went. I thought I was going to get grabbed by the forces near Boulder City to help with the problem on the way past. That was not the case though, so the walk down was distraction free. Should enjoy that while we can. Just in case this turns into a bloodbath, I stock up on ammo from Barden for the hunting rifle. 400 plus rounds ought to be enough. In the end, it's a lot more diplomatic than you might think. Speaking with Papa has him essentially tell me to kill myself, so I leave and get ambushed by Regis, who tells me to sway the other members of the clan against the Legion. I get 3 objectives here, so I just tackle them from most to least recent. Carl's up first. Tried talking with the man, but when that didn't work, I did a little stealing. Once I handed over his journal to Papa, he is promoted from emissary to target dummy. Melissa's next, the most strenuous task by far, simply being get to her without becoming dinner. Couple of Vipers on the way too, but they were far more interested in Rex than me, so I was able to pick them off from behind while he mauled the rest. As for those aforementioned Deathclaws, well, I just repeat what I did when I fought them before. Try and get sneak crits at a distance, and then pick off the survivors before they get close. Having Rex this time slowed them down a little as well. Our metallic furry friend wouldn't survive against them on his own for long, but every second helped. Also made a point to cripple the bigger one's legs if I could, much like the Cazadors, doing so slows them down to a crawl, making them easy pickings. I called in the ranger for the assist again too, but I never actually saw them. That said, I could hear gunshots, so I believe they were protecting me from somewhere. Mel's a smart girl, thankfully, and chooses to take the word of the man who just fought through a horde of Deathclaws without questioning us or asking for proof. So all that leaves is Jack and Diane. Convince one, you convince the other, and to do so, Diane mentions looking for their previous runner, Anders. He's down by the riverside, so after sniping a few ferals, we can free him, then return to the canyon. They may be convinced, but they still have more work for me. Helping Jack make groovy juice is as simple as passing a few skill checks, but the real work consists of delivering packages, seeing as Anders is still a little sore from his Jesus cosplay. First is Dawn over at the Crimson Caravan. Easy enough. Next is Motor Runner over in Vault 3. Not as simple, but we get by. I wasn't able to convince the ones at the door I was friendly, so a bloody path had to be carved through before I could deliver the goods. They're only fiends though. They stopped being a threat over 10 levels ago. Once they're all dead, we make it to Motor Runner, and shockingly, he is not immediately hostile and does in fact take the package before allowing us to leave peacefully. I guess he really did not care about the rest of them. Well, sorry about the mess then. One final return trip to Diane, and now Papa is willing to hear me out. This final part literally just has me run to Julie, who then sends me to yet another follower, who tells me about the Mongols and Genghis Khan, to which point I relay said story to Papa, and as such, they agree to leave peacefully once the battle for the dam starts. Splendid. The Colonel isn't best pleased, but the NCR is rarely happy with the peaceful solutions in the main quest, so what can you do? Oh boy! Next up is the Omertas. I start this by getting some info from Lisa at the embassy on the strip. Yeah, that's all well and good, but I was more interested in this random Brahmin and Trooper combo that ran on through the strip before suddenly disappearing before my very eyes. And no, they were not in the next zone, they were simply gone. Back to it, I am sent to call in a favour with the receptionist at Gomorrah, who then sends me off to find Caccino. Lacked the fancy words to reason with him, so pickpocket his secret diary, and all of a sudden we're best friends. His plan to solve the issues, well, one of them with the cesspool, is to get rid of Clandon and Troika. First up is Clandon. Dealing with him is remarkably similar to how we got Caccino's attention, only we take the extra step of using the key to unlock the nearby safe and get the blackmail tapes. He blatantly lies about how I dealt with the cans for some reason, which is very rude, before I then wave the tapes and convince him to leave. 'Twas a peaceful solution for once, however Rex has that raider brain in him now, so after I left the room, I believe he shot Clandon. Who's a good boy? Rather than run over to Troika, my next step was actually to tell Caccino about Clandon. Shocking me was that apparently that's all I needed to do to progress this to the final confrontation between us and the bosses. Considering how I tend to deal with these people, can you really blame me for not being entirely clued up on this quest? We outnumber the bosses thanks to Rex, so no issues. On the bright side, I get a new weapon to test out. Don't think I've ever used the assault carbine before, so this should be fun. Plus you can buy the ammo in droves, considering it's also used by the minigun, so they want you to have easy access to it. With the Omertas finished for the first time in a while without a purge, it's back to the dam before doing a 180 and returning to the strip, only this time to unplug Mr. House. The carbine tears right through his unupgraded Securitrons with ease. Makes sense, the speed it fires at means I'm proccing a lot of crits in quick succession. Into the chamber and I just unload on him the second I know he's vulnerable, not like he has any way of swaying me at this stage. Level 18 and I slightly switch it up by taking Grunt so that my new favourite toy gets a 25% damage increase. Dam and Murr, and now it's the Brotherhood. Alright, so this is going to lead to the Stay in the Dark quest, and we all know how this one plays out. So I'm going to try and cover this thing and how that goes under these set of rules as quick as I can. Sent to deal with the Brotherhood, they of course grab me at the entrance, and the Elder sends me to deal with the Ranger. Lacking those persuasive techniques, there is only one way this can end. The NCR ain't going to be happy about that, I'm sure. Back to McNamara, he sends me to hunt down the tapes, already have the ones from Repcon and Black Mountain, so I just need to go back to Nellis. I am of course then grabbed by Harden, who recruits me to be his lackey as I run around the base reading lore and helping purge a virus. I agree to help him oust McNamara and then quickly fast travel back to Nellis and grab that tape now that they aren't trying to emulsify me with artillery. Once I have the goods, my quest log updates and my top objective is to hand them over to McNamara, so I just do that. That means it's time for the extended version of this quest as I now have to track down the 3 scouts as well. Nothing of import other than the Legion are now out for blood due to continuously siding with the NCR. I am armed to the teeth though, so their American football gear may as well be made of toilet paper. After I meet all 3 scouts, I am sent on one final task, which is to retrieve some very specific items to fix up their base from 3 vaults. As luck would have it, we've already been to 2 of them, those being 22 and 3, so for them it's as simple as fast travelling back, making my way around them once more, and grabbing the special MacGuffins. Motor Runner was hostile for some reason this time, so I put him down along with his pooches. Before tackling the final vault, I went to restock at the Gunrunners. Problem was, they were immediately hostile as well. I have to assume they found out about our little B&E from before. That's fine, can't blame them. What really surprised me though was not only the 3rd appearance of the NCR Radio Ranger, but the fact he too was looking to fill me with holes. Confused and a tad concerned, I swiftly dealt with him, only to be demoted to unpredictable in the NCR's eyes. Here's hoping this doesn't make all of them at the dam hostile, otherwise this is going to hard pivot into a yes man run at the 11th hour. The final vault is filled with bugs of the insect variety and not the ones that plague the rest of the Mojave. Give them some credit, they rigged up a grenade trap that honestly caught me by surprise. Next go around I'm more careful and managed to get the last piece needed for the Brotherhood. Thanks to all my hard distractions, when I return to the Elder, I finish up the quest and can strike up a peace treaty with the Brotherhood and the NCR. Good in theory, but bad for my reputation with the latter, because only slaughter satisfies them. It's now time to protect Kimball, but due to said rep, I'm not allowed to draw my weapons, nor am I given access to schedules and the like, as Grant does not trust me. So my priority is to look for clues, I do so, and then it updates to tell me to keep an eye on the sniper's nest. Fine by me, it's typically how I do this anyway. Like clockwork, the President arrives, as does the Legion sniper, who is promptly dealt with by me and the real Ranger. And with that, the day is saved.
Nothing is going to happen to the President on my watch. Nothing is going to happen to the President on my watch.
I was never told to disarm the bomb. Final confrontation at the dam, and for once in my life, like this is literally the first time I have ever bothered with this side task, I go out of my way to turn on the fans so the Legion get diced like onions. After that, it's business as usual. I swap back to the hunting rifle to snipe the majority of the Legion from a safe distance, before pushing into the camp proper to throw down with the legate. The fun thing about Lanius not being hostile until you speak with him is that it allows a free sneak attack if you position yourself just right. It's a good chunk off his health bar right from the start, then when he gets serious, I just swap back to the assault carbine, which I went ahead and bought some armor-piercing rounds for this very occasion. This just annihilates his defenses, causing him to almost instantly start booking it for the middle of the camp to start his second phase. I then used VATS to line up the last few shots, finishing off the legate before he had so much of a chance to do anything. I used the last of my armor-piercing rounds to take out the stragglers before approaching the gate, meeting with Oliver, finishing the game and proving yes, you can indeed beat Fallout New Vegas, while easily distracted. The path I took to reach the end of the game was honestly a lot different than I thought it would be. I completely forgot about the NCR messenger who approaches you after you enter the Lucky 38 for the first time. I honestly figured I would make it to Benny, deal with him, then get stopped by Volpes and be sent off to Cottonwood Cove, which probably would have resulted in either a Legion heavy run or a House run if House spoke to me at the terminal. Not sure what the next run might be. I had a couple of older Fallout 4 requests I wanted to finally get to, but at the time of writing this, that game is currently broken due to most recent anniversary update, but I suppose we shall see. Regardless, that's going to be the end of the challenge video. If you enjoyed what you saw, consider giving the video a like. If you're interested in more challenges in the future, feel free to subscribe. I'm trying to run these videos out fairly frequently. My name's Nerbit, stay safe everyone, I'll see y'all in the next video.